Hey everybody, I'm coming to you from inside my house. It is December 27th, I believe, a Saturday when I'm making this video, a video I've been wanting to make for, 2 or 3 days now, but I have been trying to gather my thoughts on this and so that I could be somewhat coherent, but there's just so much information out there. I've been trying to process and noodle my way through this. I was wanting to make a lot of notes, but I finally decided I'm just going to dive in like I normally do and just kind of like just speak from the gut on this issue. But first, let me say I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas season, a happy new year to you. I have been swamped, as most of you probably know, because you know what I do for a living. Christmas time, the Christmas season is high season for me, and I have been just buried in work, but I think things are going to lighten up a little bit now, and hopefully you'll see more of me. But I want to get right to this because I've got so much that I want to try and cover. I can't cover everything that I want to say just in the interest of time, or I'd be here for hours probably. I don't know. All of you are aware probably at this point that there's been a big kerfuffle among Trump supporters, some in the MAGA wing and some not so much, with regard to a post that Vivek Ramaswamy made on X recently with regard to the H-1B1, I believe it's called, visa, and he has created a storm with that post. I don't have the post in front of me here. I can't read the whole thing, although I have read it several times. And I encourage you to read it if you can find it on Twitter. I went looking for it again, and I had a tough time finding it, but there's some things I want to say about it. I have been a supporter, as you know, of Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he is extremely bright and articulate. He was my choice for the Republican nomination, but I am mostly disappointed with his posts with regard to these visas and the importation into America of the best and brightest, as is commonly referred to take these largely tech jobs that would be filled, I guess, in the Silicon Valley. I don't know. What I take away from his post, and he says some things in his post that are accurate, but Vivek manages somehow to make me feel as an American just a tad insulted by what he says. In essence, that we need these work visas so that we can attract these so-called best and brightest people from around the world to fill these tech jobs, because Americans apparently are either too lazy or too stupid or too smitten with mediocrity, or we're not smart enough to fill these jobs. That's what I take away from it. I'm not going to trash his entire post because a lot of what he says is true. We do have some problems in America. We have some problems in our educational system in America. Our standards have fallen over the course of many years. But I disagree with him that the solution to our problem is to import people to fill positions in America that ought to be filled by Americans, if you ask me. I am an American first citizen, period. We go with Americans or nothing else. In terms of immigration, as we all know, immigration or illegal immigration was surely the greatest impetus that drove voters to the polls to get Donald Trump reelected. It's certainly a great motivator for me because we have been simply overrun by illegal aliens coming into our country. I go a little bit further in my assessment about this influx of illegal immigrants. I don't believe we should stop illegal immigration. If you ask me, I'm a hardliner. I believe we should stop immigration, period. Now, you may not agree with that, and that's okay. But I would say until we get a grip on the problem, at least put a temporary ban of say 5 years or so on immigration. That's not unprecedented, by the way, but we have been overrun with non-Americans into our country. Look, if you're going to have a country, you've got to have a country that are made up of the people that are in that country. This is not to take a shot at Canadians or Mexicans or Australians or anybody from any other nation. You have your nations. My thinking is, why don't you stay in your nation, fix your problems, work from your nation, or is that too much to ask? We have bright people in America. We have bright institutions in America where we produce people who can fill these jobs that that Vivek is talking about. But he is saying in the midst of all of this to import these people to fill these jobs that Americans are basically too lazy or too mediocre to fill. That's the gist of what I get from Elon. I'm sorry, I keep saying Elon because I'm going to talk about him too. This is the gist, as far as I am concerned, of what Vivek is talking about, and I disagree for the first time with Vivek. And I'm disappointed in Vivek for saying the things he's saying. I'm not saying he is entirely wrong in his assessment of our condition, our educational condition, or this malaise that we're under in terms of people not going out and wanting to work as they should. There are people like that in this country, people who do not want to work for a living, people who want everything given to them on a silver platter. We do have that situation in America. I don't deny that. But I got to tell you, folks, I'm going to run up the flag here, and I'm going to speak like an America First guy. I'm going to speak like a patriot. I am an American. I live and die with my country. I was born here. I will die here. I am an American First kind of guy. And that, I believe, is what Trump has been preaching this whole time. But now he has a couple of acolytes with him who don't really share that view. And I'm talking about Vivek, and I'm talking about Elon Musk. I believe America is for Americans, and it's as simple as that. And I would remind Mr. Ramaswamy, it is America who gave us flight. I want to show you something. Bear with me. I stopped the tape there because I wanted to go grab a book that I just finished reading that I highly recommend. It is excellent. It was written by the late David McCullough, and the name of the book is The Wright Brothers. David McCullough is a fantastic writer, and he wrote this book that is just fantastic, filled with pictures. It tells the story of the Wright brothers and how these great model Americans from Ohio put us to flight in places like Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and Dayton, Ohio. It is a tremendous read. I highly recommend you read this book, but that's the point. It was Americans who gave us flight. It is Americans who have given us some tremendous inventions. Henry Ford, the vehicle, Oldsmobile, I believe, was the first. And we could go on and on. It is Americans largely who have raised the standard of living for people all around the world. Americans are not only generally bright, I'm talking about traditional, hardworking Americans, not the ones who have made themselves government dependents. I'm not talking about those Americans. I'm not talking about those who suck at the teat of mother government for all of their sustenance. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about these hardworking, industrious Americans who go out and work hard for a living every day, raise their families, pay their bills, pay their taxes, love God. They are model citizens. Those are the Americans that I'm talking about. Those are our patriots. And we are not only an industrious lot, but we are also a charitable lot. American culture has been largely a religious culture, and it is that religious culture that has given us hospitals and schools and the greatest health care, I maintain, on earth. We have a crappy health care delivery system, but our health care is second to none. These are Americans, Vivek, that gave that to us. But here is a response that I found that I want to read for you. Bear with me if you will. I don't know who this gentleman is. I found him on Twitter, and he says this. Bear with me while I read quickly. What Vivek is actually condemning is that the American working class has the fresh memory of their parents achieving a high standard of living through honest work, and that they hold that as an expectation. Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, etc., do not have that memory of expectation. American workers have become fully disillusioned with runaway capitalism and do not want to sacrifice their bodies or minds for a standard of living far below what their parents enjoyed with less education and skills than they have. They do not want to work 50 hours plus per week to barely be able to make ends meet for themselves, let alone for the family they hope to have. They have zero incentive. So what Vivek means when he speaks of culture is the culture of insects. What Vivek is describing when he refers to hyper-competitiveness are Americans being unable to compete with insect culture. It is an American with the blood memory of a happy family being comfortably provided for on a union mechanic's salary up against a swarm of roaches, content to be packed 20 to a pod, eating slop, shitting in a bucket, and doing it all for nothing more than the occasional head pat from their maker. For their refusal to accept such a slave-like existence, American workers are being mocked by the insects who cannot even begin to fathom that there is meaning and value to life beyond a few extra dollars in their bank account, a bit of extra shareholder value, being number one in some bullshit industry that shouldn't even exist. Bravo, my friend, whoever you are that said that. Vivek is an American. He is the son of Indian immigrants. So he is an American. But his worldview and his standards, his outlook has been shaped by his Indian-born parents who come from another culture. Vivek is a Hindu. To this day, he is a Hindu. He's not an atheist. He's a Hindu, and Hinduism is largely the religion of India. I'm not here to disparage anybody else's culture or their religion, but this is America. We are by and large not Hindus. I know we have a wide variety of religious beliefs in America, but it was not always this way, folks. Let's face the facts. Our founders were largely white European men who were mostly Christian, and that's just a fact. Most all of the founders were Christians. There were some Quakers, there were some deists. Jefferson was he was a deist. These men were largely aligned with the Church of England, but they all had pretty much a shared value system. They all esteemed the Holy Trinity. They all believed in a sovereign God, and they brought these religious values into America. They weren't Buddhist, they weren't Hindu, they weren't Muslims. They were largely Christian, or they held to Christian values, and those are the moorings, the underpinnings of American culture. And what Vivek is introducing to us, or trying to introduce to us, as far as I'm concerned, is basically some semblance of Indian culture. But this isn't India. This is America. Why do we have this issue right now? It seems to me to be somewhat duplicitous because, as I said, Trump ran largely on the issue of illegal immigration and stopping the flow of illegals into America. There you have Trump saying these things repeatedly on the one hand, and the people responded by giving him a landslide victory. And there you have Vivek on the other hand, known to be a supporter of Trump, saying, well, what we need to do to solve our problems in America is to import people who share a different value system than Americans to fill these jobs that these lazy, fat-ass Americans can't fill. Well, screw you, Vivek. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Americans can fill these jobs. We are bright enough to do this. We did put us to flight. We did discover the automobile. There are some bright Americans among us, not all of us, but a lot of us are. And I'm insulted at the notion that we're going to have to go get some outside help to fill these jobs because we just can't do it ourselves. Take your Indian bullshit back to India, Vivek, if that's the way you feel about it. Now, you are highly successful, and I commend you for that. I laud excess. I applaud success. But I also applaud American success being accomplished by Americans, period. And I make no apology for that. This issue of immigration has got to be solved once and for all. I hope Trump is still serious about this, but he's got himself surrounded now by Vivek and Elon Musk. Look, I applaud their efforts with the DOGE to get rid of government waste. I'm all in. Count me in. I'm in that club, believe me. But we have got to focus on this issue of illegal immigration. And if we want to understand anything, we need to go back to the founders if it pertains to the American experiment. And we need to remember what our founders said about immigration. And I'll start with General Washington, who said this, and I quote, "My opinion with respect to immigration is that except of useful mechanics and some particular description of men and professions, there is no use of encouragement." George Washington. Thomas Jefferson said this, "Find some means of shielding ourselves in future from foreign influence, political, commercial, or in whatever other form it may be attempted. I can scarcely withhold myself from joining in the wish of Silas Deane that there were an ocean of fire between us and the old world." That's what Thomas Jefferson said. Benjamin Franklin said, "Unless the stream of their importation could be turned, they will soon so outnumber us that all the advantages we have will not be able to preserve our language, and even our government will become precarious." Benjamin Franklin. Alexander Hamilton said this, "To admit foreigners indiscriminately to the rights of citizens, the moment they put foot in our country as recommended in the message, would be nothing less than to admit the Grecian horse into the citadel of our liberty and sovereignty." James Madison, "When we are considering the advantages that may result from an easy mode of naturalization, we ought also to consider that the cautious necessary to guard against abuses. I do not wish that any man should acquire the privilege or citizenship, but such as would be a real addition to the wealth or strength of the United States." John Adams said this, "Foreign meddlers, as you properly denominate them, have a strange, a mysterious influence in this country. Americans will find that their own experience will coincide with the experience of all other nations, and foreigners must be received with caution, or they will destroy all confidence in government." John Dickinson said, "Where there were ever a confederacy of republics united as these states are, or in which the people were so drawn together by religion, blood, language, manners, and customs." John Jay, who would have made, in my estimation, a fantastic president, said this, "A people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, professing the same religion, attached to the same principles of government, very similar in their manners and customs." James Monroe, "What was the origin of our slave population? The evil commenced when we were in our colonial state, but acts were passed by our colonial legislature prohibiting the importation of more slaves into the colony. These were rejected by the crown." So there you have it. If you're going to have a nation, you've got to have a nation filled with the people in your nation. I'm not going to any other nation bringing my values, my customs, my religion into their nation. I'm not going to Australia or India or Russia or anywhere else trying to bring all of that into their country. It's their country. I have to respect that. I love other nations. I love Russia. I love Greece. I love England. I love all these places. I'm a descendant from Wales, but I'm not going to these places taking my American values there, trying to change their culture, as I believe Vivek is probably keen on doing. Pardon me, and I reject that. Now, let me get to you, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who took over, he bought Twitter, he bought X, and he was going to open it up so that everybody could have their say on X without undue censorship, as was present under Jack Dorsey. There's a woman who is on Twitter, X, by the name of Laura Loomer. You may know of Laura Loomer. I have issues with Laura Loomer. She's right about a lot of things. She's almost a sycophant for Donald Trump. She loves Donald Trump. She loves MAGA. She waves the flag for Donald Trump every day, relentlessly on Twitter. And for that, I applaud her. But she says some things that I don't agree with, and a lot of her manners I don't agree with. But because Laura Loomer took Vivek to task on his post with regard to the H-1B1 visas, Elon Musk took away her blue check mark, her verification on Twitter, on X. If you follow me on X, you'll notice I've got Trailer Trash Tim with a blue check mark. I paid for that. You get those so that nobody else can imitate you. You know it's legit. You know that's the real person. Laura Loomer had at Laura Loomer with a blue check. She had a verified account. Elon took that away from her. He penalized her because she disagreed with Vivek and with him, because he is essentially in bed with Vivek on this matter. He also believes we need to be importing people to fill these tech jobs. So the richest man in the world takes away Laura Loomer's verified account. I've got a problem with Elon Musk, and I'm going to tell you why. It's not because of his great wealth, good on him, but I want to tell you something about Elon Musk. Elon Musk had a little bit of help getting so rich, and you know who he got his help from in the beginning when he founded Tesla? The United States government. That's who. Elon Musk got subsidies from the United States government with his company, from which he has wildly profited. That's great if you can profit and make money. I got no issue with that. I do have an issue if you bankroll your industry with help from the federal government. That smells to me. That doesn't pass the smell test. So right now, as I make this video on a Saturday, a rainy, stormy Saturday afternoon, I don't know if Trump has come out and said anything about this brewing controversy within the Trump movement. I started to say MAGA, but not everybody is MAGA. I don't know where he's going to come down on this, but I hope that he will disavow what Elon and Vivek are saying, because Vivek is wrong about this. Elon is wrong about this, and I was wrong for supporting Vivek. And I'm man enough to say it. Those are my thoughts on this visa controversy. I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. Please make sure you like this video and give me some comments down below. It's good to see you all again. I hope to see you again very soon now that the storms have subsided somewhat. Take care, everybody. I'll see you soon.